Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. You know, on this election day, we're taking a look at the specific legal challenges to the 2020 vote. This is turning out to be one of the most litigated elections of all time. As of right now, this is unreal. There have already been more than 300 lawsuits filed in dozens of states. And as we know, some people are still voting. Court TV's Michael Ayala has been looking into this. Michael, why all of this litigation, all these lawsuits?
Yeah, you know, Vinny, I spent the day and I talked with some folks at the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU Law School. They're on the front lines of a lot of these cases. They're tracking these cases. And basically they're saying they're coming all out of the changes to some of the election laws throughout the country to accommodate the COVID-19 pandemic. They're trying to make access greater, a number of laws that change the way you can vote, where you can vote, how you can vote, when to start or not and stop counting some of the mail-in ballots. And all of these cases are adding up to, like you said, over 300 cases throughout the country. And they say it's this push and pull between the Democrats and the Republicans. Democrats generally looking to expand the rights to vote and the opportunity to vote. Republicans looking to sort of contract that or challenge some of the legal basis for those changes. And Myrna Perez, who works with the Brennan Center, I interviewed her. And here's what she had to say. She had some pretty interesting stuff to say about the pattern that she's seen for these cases across the country in this season.
The court's cases have been going through a particular trajectory. In the beginning of the pandemic, we started seeing a lot of cases that were trying to adjust the rules to accommodate the fact that voters have different needs and specific needs when we're dealing with a once-in-a-century pandemic. And then we saw a wave of court cases trying to push back or claw back or stop that increased access, either whether they be done by a legislature, a governor, or even another court system. And right now we're in a particularly peculiar phase where we are seeing campaigns and political parties actually try to stop particular ballots from getting counted. And we're seeing this in examples as ranging from like Texas to Pennsylvania to Nevada.
Yeah, so, you know, it's interesting because I guess both sides are entrenched in what they think their position benefits their party, so they're stuck on that. But you would think ballots would be bipartisan, Vinny, so she and I were both sort of questioning whether the efficacy of that entire process.
Well, let's talk specifics now. What specific cases are out there right now?
All right, I'm going to use two that's sort of indicative of what's going on around the country. We have one out in Harris County in the Houston area. And in this case, there was a case brought that tried to challenge the extension of curbside voting to drive-in voting. We're looking here at a video of, it's a PSA that showed people how to do it. You show your ID, you sign in, you get your signature verified, you get an electronic device, you vote, then you're on your way. And again, it's for people who didn't want to come in contact with too many people while voting. So this was in a Harris County, which is a Democratic county. It was challenged by the Republicans saying that you can't extend curbside voting this far. Well, it went to court, and the court ruled in favor on a technicality of the election's extension of curbside voting, saying essentially you brought this too late. Right? Too many people, over 100,000 people already voted this way. I'm not going to make any changes now, but he did say that there was a place in the law that it might not hold because you need to vote in Texas under the law in a structure, right? And their tent, as you saw in that video, didn't qualify as a structure. So even though the elections officials won, it had a chilling effect because today, on election day, they closed 9 out of 10 of those locations, only leaving one open because it had 4 walls and a roof and qualified as a structure in their opinion. Then in Pennsylvania, this is another indicative case, they extended the amount of time for mail-in ballots to come in and be counted. They extended it by 3 days. They said in 3 days, if it comes in, we'll count it. Well, that was challenged because the state court actually said that. Republicans said, no, state courts can't do that. That's only for state legislatures. That case ended up in the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the extension, but said, Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas all said that that state court ruling might be in violation of the Constitution, leaving the door open for possible lawsuits after the election. And as we know, Pennsylvania is a battleground state. It could come down to a few votes, few 100,000 votes. We could find this in court just like Florida back in 2000. So even though election officials won, so of course Republicans are unhappy. So Trump wasn't happy. And here's what the president had to say on the campaign trail about that decision.
I think the Pennsylvania decision by the Supreme Court is a very dangerous decision. I think it's a decision that allows tremendous cheating to go on after the fact. But before the votes are tabulated, I think it's a very, very dangerous decision for our country. And I hope it's going to be readjusted. We'll be asking for that. But it is a horrendous decision for our country. It's a mistake. It allows cheating. It allows cheating at a very high level, and very easy cheating, too.
Again, now the Brennan Center made sure to say that there's no evidence that that's going to allow cheating. But at the end of the day, it still had a chilling effect, even though the extension was allowed, because many states who have allowed an extension are now separating any ballots that come in after Election Day, just in case there's a case by the Supreme Court that says they can't be counted. They're already in a position to separate them from other votes.
Yeah, I'm having flashbacks to 2000.
Exactly.
I was working in Florida back in 2000.
Yeah.
And I remember we come into the newsroom every day. Oh, yeah, they found another bag of ballots in somebody's car. They're going to go count. I mean, it was insanity, but we could be there again. So I presume we're expecting some lawsuits after Election Day.
You know, Vinny, that's up for grabs. I mean, it depends on how close this election is, right? If this election is within a few 100,000 votes, certainly a number of these cases across the country have left the door open for lawsuits saying, you know, had you brought this at another time, we might be ruling in your favor. So you can absolutely expect lawsuits that are going to question which votes were counted, which ones shouldn't be counted. And I asked the folks at the Brennan Center, again, Myrna Perez, she's again on the front line of these cases. I said, do you think this is going to happen? She said, I don't know, I hope not, but we are on the ready. Let's listen to what she had to say about that.
I think it is really, really destructive. Not only for our court system, because again, people expect our courts to be protecting our fundamental right to vote, not being used as a tool of a political party to try and stop our ballots from being counted. But I also think that it reflects a aggressiveness on the part of campaigns and candidates that they'd rather duke it out in the courts than compete in the court of public opinion for voters. And I think that that is going to harm our democracy in the long run. My hope is that voters will say in one clear voice that we want free and fair, accessible elections. We want our right to vote to be robust. And irrespective of how our neighbor may be casting their ballot, we want everyone who is eligible to be able to cast a ballot that counts.
Yeah, and certainly, Vinny, we could be headed in that direction. Maybe one of the reasons it was so important for the Republican Party to get another conservative onto the bench to deal with these cases if they come her way.
Yeah, it's a fascinating issue, and it's all because everything is so close, right?
Yes.
If it's not close, it becomes, as we say in the law, moot. But when it is close, and, you know, 1,000 votes here, 1,700 here in a particular state can change things. Because I remember being a reporter doing local news, and there were always legal challenges to elections because sometimes they're decided by 23 votes.
Yeah, these local elections especially, Vinny, you see that a lot. Not so much on the national level. You know, I was at Court TV back when the original Bush v. Gore came out, and I can remember reporters standing on the steps of the Supreme Court with the actual decision as it was coming off the presses, reading what was going on so we could know who our next president could be. We could actually have that again.
We could have it. And if we do, of course, Court TV will be on the steps of the Supreme Court, bringing it all to you. Michael Ayala, Court TV anchor, thank you so much.